Hi everybody, it's Anne Boundy from Said With Love, and I'm going to show you how to make this cute zippy pouch, double-sided and lined zippy pouch that I made from the Ruby Star face mask panel. There were two shapes of masks, the rounded one, and then they had these rectangular panels. And I did make some masks out of both of them. I used the Tea Rose Home mask tutorial, which you can see a video in my YouTube channel. And there's that from the rounded mask, and then I used one of the panels which has the cute little bottles of soft drink on them as the second mask. But I find that I was putting them in a plastic Ziploc bag, taking with me out and about. And then when they were dirty, I was putting them into another plastic Ziploc bag, and I was getting them confused between which were the cleans, which were the dirties. So I've decided that I would use a couple of the rectangular panels to make a zippy pouch, and that's where my clean ones go. And then once they've been worn and used, I pop them in a Ziploc bag. And then the Ziploc bag comes back into the house with me. I wash them in hot soapy water and then dry them and iron them. And then put them back in this to go back out when I'm out and about. And I just love some of the panels that came with in the panel. The cute sun, the beautiful clementine print, and the one I'm going to use today is my all-time favourite, which is the typewriter with the love heart. And I'm going to pair that with the strawberries on the back, and I'm going to show you how to make this zippy pouch. So to make this zippy pouch, you need two of the rectangular panels from the Ruby Star Society mask panel, and they're about 6.5 inches by 10 inches. So you can make this out of any fabric that you have at home. And so you need two of those for the exterior of your zippy pouch. Pop those over there. And then I've cut out two exactly the same size, so the 6.5 by the 10 inches, interior fabric, so lining fabric, and I just picked a pink that was going to match. You will also need two pieces of fusible fleece, so one side's sort of furry and fleecy, and the other side has little dimples on it of glue, so you actually iron this on to the backing, the back side, the wrong side of your exterior fabric. Now I cut this just 1/4 inch smaller, so this piece for the exterior is the 6.5 by 10. I cut this at 6.25 by 9 3/4, just so when you take it over to your iron and you press it on, it's not going to go over the side of your exterior piece and get onto your ironing board cover and stuff. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So you need the two exterior pieces, your two lining pieces, your two pieces of fusible. You need a zip. I struggled to find a nice coloured zip. I was wanting this lovely muted bluey teal sort of colour, but I didn't have it, so I've gone with a pinky purple. So you need a zip that's going to be the length of your 10 inches. Now we're going to make little end zip tabs because we want the zip to come in a little bit, about 1.5 inches in from the edge, so that when we turn our zippy pouch in around the other side, you don't get too much of a folded, rounded corner. You still do a little bit, but not quite so much, and this helps. So you need a zip, and you need two pieces of fabric that are at least your width of your zipper tab. So I cut mine at 1.5 inches wide, and I'll probably trim it in a bit. 1.5 inches wide and 3.5 long, because we are going to fold the ends and fold it in half and put it over the end of your zipper. So let's get started on all of this. So the first thing we need to do is turn our two exterior pieces for your zipper bag over, so you've got the wrong sides facing up. Then take your fusible fleece, find the glue side, the little bubbly prickly side, and put that onto the back of your exterior pieces, and then go to your ironing board. Now once I've made sure that it's quite centered and there's none of the fusible fleece hanging off either end, I flip it over I give it a spritz of water because I don't use steam on my iron because I could never be good enough to empty out my iron. So I spritz it with water and then I press my hot iron, medium hot iron, in the middle and leave it for a good few moments while I'm putting a reasonable amount of pressure, then lift and move it out, lift and move it out, lift and move it out. And that means that no wrinkles are going to get in it. So you then, once you've gone out to that side, start back in the middle and repeat the process over the other way. And you'll see that the glue will start to melt and adhere to the back of your fabric, and you should get a nice flat surface. So I'll go and do that and I'll come back. I'm back with my fusible fleece now adhered to the back of my exterior pieces. Now, read your own manufacturer's instructions for whatever fleece you have, but I found that the different fleeces that I've used over time, this has sort of been the best result. You get a nice, quite smooth result on the front. So that's our two exterior pieces prepared. Our two interior pieces we've cut to the same size, so that's 6.5 by 10, and I've just given them a press. That's all done. So next we need to work on creating the zipper tab. So take your two pieces of fabric that are 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches and press over both ends by 1/4 inch and then press them in half so that the two ends here meet well. Give that a fold, and then we need to take our exterior piece and a pair of kitchen scissors, so not your fabric scissors, because we're going to be cutting through our zip, because it's quite likely that the zip that you have is going to be longer, as mine is, than the zipper pouch, and we don't need it to be. So I'll show you what I've done here. So I've folded over my piece like I just discussed, and I've popped the little end of the zipper in here, folded that back, and this is just before the little metal, don't know whether you can see that here, I'll try and get it closer, just before the little metal parts, which is what stops your zip pull from coming off. So I'm going to put it right there, and you can either use Wonder Clip or a pin to just hold it in place while we get the other end prepared and we're ready to go to the sewing machine. And what we're going to be doing is just literally sewing across that seam. So we're going to go across the zipper teeth, but not that metal piece. And then once we've got that one end sorted, we're going to then work out where our next piece is going to be. So that's where we're putting the folded edge of your two zipper tabs on the end. That's where we're going to do the sewing. But of course we need to cut some of this off. We don't want to cut too much off because we need something under here to sew. So I think I'm going to measure in about 1 inch. I think, yep, an inch. And if I cut off the zip there, I've still got plenty to sew on, but it's going to be okay. So I'm just going to mark that. And to cut a zipper, just take it nice and slow. As I said, with your kitchen scissors, not your fabric scissors. That would be just depressing. You can cut off that end. Now, do not take your zipper tab off. You'll be struggling for ages to try and get it back on. So we're then going to put that back in there. We've got that end lined with that side of the front and that side of the front. We're going to get some little Wonder Clips here. And so there we've got it ready. And then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and I'm just going to sew about 1/8 inch in, just from the top down on the fabric through your zipper teeth, and I'll come back and show you. Okay, so I've just been to the sewing machine and I have just sewn the seam across the end here and the seam across the end there. So we now have our zipper tape working well. What I do like to do is just trim it to the width of the zipper tape. I'll do this end first. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you're not cutting through any plastic, so you can use your rotary cutter just to get it a little thinner And just do this end as well. You can just trim that off with your scissors as well, I suppose. Just so used to using a rotary cutter. So now we've got everything ready to start doing our zipper bag construction. Let's start putting this zipper pouch together. So the first thing we're going to do is take the front of your zippy pouch and take your zipper tab, and we're going to turn that face down, and we're going to line that up on the very top of your front. So we're just going to put some Wonder Clips. Wonder Clips are fantastic for this, keeps them in place without distorting things too much. And I'm just lining the zipper tape right along the top of the front of our pouch. There we go. Now you'll see the zipper tab bit causes quite a bit of a bump, so it becomes quite difficult to get this straight. What I like to do is actually move that to the middle and then make sure that my tape from the beginning spot to the middle is all lovely. And what we're going to do when we get to sewing is actually sew down this side, stop it about here, lift our presser foot, and then we're going to put our hands in underneath and move that zipper tab back to the top so that we can then put the presser foot down and continue sewing, and we'll get it nice and even and straight. So anyway, we've got now the zip face down on top of the front, and then we're going to grab one of your interior lining pieces, and that's going to be face down on top of your zipper tape. And then I'm just going to come along and just add that into my Wonder Clips, trying to again keep everything aligned with the top. So there, that's what we have. So we've got the correct side of the lining facing the correct side of your exterior and your zipper in the middle. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew that zipper. Now, I don't know whether you can see, but that's what my zipper foot looks like. It's a fairly small little thing. And I move my needle right over to this left-hand side, kind of in line with the edge of the zipper foot. And that means that when I'm sewing, and I know we can't see the zipper teeth, but you can feel them. So when I'm sewing, my zipper foot comes down about here, and I sort of almost line it up with the very edge of the fabric, and my needle comes down in this little groove here, which is close to the teeth, but not right on them. You need, you know, when you sort of finish it and fold it back, you need the fabric to be just a little bit away from the teeth, otherwise your zipper won't move. So I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and do that sewing. So I thought I might show you actually how I do the zip part, because a lot of people find zips very, very difficult. First of all, I'm going to move my needle over, as I was saying, to the very left-hand side of the zipper foot. Now, my stitch width can be 9mm, so it can go from 0 to 9. I actually move it to 1, so it's a bit hard to see, but it's coming into that little rounded part of my zipper foot just nicely, but it's not right over on the very, very, very side. So I'm going to pop my foot down. And as I said, I almost line it right up with the edge of my zipper foot with the side of the fabric. Perhaps it's going to depend on how wide your zipper foot is, but I can feel my zipper teeth don't start until here, but I can feel them underneath the fabric. Now, I use this By Annie stiletto, which I must say is just a lifesaver, because it helps me move certainly fabric that's sort of only just under the teeth and feet. Just helps me move them through those first few stitches. Okay, so here we go. And here I'm coming to the zipper tape, and I can feel the zipper tape, and I'm going through. Now I'm going to stop here because I can feel the big zipper pull that's under there, and it's causing quite a big lump. I'm going to lift my foot, and I'm going to pop my little hand in here, and I'm going to slide that zipper pull all the way through so it's down to the end. Nicely lay everything down again, pop my foot down again, and I can continue on sewing. I think the thing with zips is consistency, going nice and slow, and being even with how you're sewing. And there, I'm going to go all the way through. Okay, so we've finished that. It's pretty even the whole way through. Perhaps not perfect, but you know. And here we have what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go to the iron, and I'm going to press this side back, and I'm going to press this side back so that they're nice and flat, and then we'll come back to the sewing machine. So this is my front portion. So this is the front side, that's my lining, my zipper, and I've done a nice press. What we're going to do now is actually come along and top stitch. So with a slightly longer stitch length, on my machine I usually stitch at a 1.8. I'm going to up that to a 2. So just make that slightly longer, and I've changed my thread to something that matches this fabric. So it's just a slight sort of tealy kind of colour. And I still keep my zipper foot in, but what I do, because I like sewing this way, I'm actually going to move my needle from the very left side of the zipper foot all the way over onto the right hand side of the zipper foot. So now it's over on the right hand side, which means I can either line up the zipper foot right with the top, or I'm just going to have it just a little bit in and pop my, so it's going to be maybe a 1/4 inch. I might just move it a tad closer. And then we're going to sew just a nice constant, oops, I better get my stiletto out there just to help me push that through. Nice constant, keeping the edge of my zipper foot and the fold of this front fabric just nicely even all the way across. And there we go, we've got a nice top stitch all the way along the side. So let's go and do the next side. Okay, so we've got our first side of our zippy pouch done. Now what we're going to do is just pop that to the side, and we're going to get our other pieces out. So the other side, the back of our zippy pouch, and that other piece of lining fabric. Oh, I don't know that there's really a right or a wrong way, maybe that way. So we've got the exterior piece, and then we're going to grab the bit that you've done before and put the zip with the zipper pull down, so right sides together, and we're going to line up. Now you'll notice that my lining is just a little bit, it's skewed a bit and things. We'll trim that up in a little while, but what we're doing now is making sure that that zip is going to line up with the top. I'm just going to pin again with my Wonder clips. Cool, so we've got that. Now I might just move that a little bit further down. Yeah, that's better. Doesn't matter so much, you know, here I've got this, you know, less than a 1/4 inch, about 1/8 inch. It's tiny, because the seam that we'll be putting through there, we'll take that into account. That's fine. So there we have, we've got that pinned, and then we're going to take our last bit of lining fabric face down onto the top, and again pop that back into the Wonder clips like we did before. And we're going to take it to the sewing machine using our zipper foot with the needle on the left-hand side, and we're going to sew all the way down, just feeling where the zipper teeth are, making sure that we're not going over those, all the way along. Now, with this one, at the moment, I've got the zipper pulls right down here at the bottom. So as I get to about halfway, I'll stop, lift up the needle, lift up the presser foot, pop my hand in under here, find the zipper pull and push it past back to where we've already sewn, and then so I can continue on and we'll get no problems. So I'm going to go and do that. Okay, so I finished putting that zip in. I took it to the ironing board, gave it a good press, and then I've done a top stitch as we did before. So the top stitch goes through your lining and your outer. So we're starting to get a bit closer to a zippy pouch. So the next thing we need to do, I don't know whether you saw on my original one, I've got a little tab out here so that you know, when you're trying to close it, you don't have to hang on to here. You can give that a good yank. So you can put them on both sides, you can put them on one side, really doesn't matter. I'm going to put it on where the zip opens side this time. This one I put on the other side, just for something different. Now I just found a little bit of ribbon. I think it's 4 inches long. So you fold it over. We're going to fold it over and then put the raw ends on the inside, so the right side, because in a minute we're going to do some folding and we're going to put things together like that. So that's what we're going to do with our little piece of ribbon. So with our zippy pouch, we're going to grab the 2 front pieces and we're going to put them together, and we're going to grab the 2 lining pieces and put them together, and then we're going to do some pinning or wonder clipping in my situation. And what I do first is actually fold here right at the center point, and just make sure that the tops, which it's very hard to see here, I know, try and get it, the top, this part where this fold is here, get those 2 right together and pop a wonder clip on it, and do that on the other side as well. Yep, it's looking good, because then we've made sure that that kind of crucial point is together. Okay, and then we can just flatten things out and put wonder clips around the sides of the exteriors, because we're just going to sew all the way around those. So just enough to keep that nice and steady. Now the lining, when we put those 2 together, we're going to leave about a 3-inch gap down the bottom, and I like to identify that with pins so that I don't forget when I'm sewing. So I've got a gap there, and I'm actually going to start my sewing here, go all the way around, and stop again here. And I just do a little back stitch when I start and stop, so that this hole, which is where we're going to get everything open from, oh, really good point. Don't, like I just did, forget and leave your zippy pouch zipped up. You need to open your zip to a good 3/4 of the way. So I've now opened it to here. So don't forget that, because when you've sewn your whole zippy pouch up and you haven't left that zip open, it is a nightmare to try and turn it through. Okay, so we're back there. We've opened our zip. We're going to line up our lining, put some pins to identify where we're going to leave an opening, wonder clips around the rest. Whoop, we still need to put our little bit of ribbon in. I'll show you where that's going to go in a second. Okay, now I decided that I wanted my ribbon in this side, so don't know that there's a right or a wrong side to that ribbon. So I'm going to do it, fold it in half, and I'm going to pop it in here. and place it, oh, I don't know, about an inch or so, maybe an inch and a half down. Raw sides to this together. Just going to open that up and just double check that I haven't got it folded wrongly. No, that's looking good. So, as I said, now we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to sew from our first pinpoint here, do a reverse stitch. Now, the seam allowance that we use on the lining side of things is 3/8 of an inch. So it's a slightly bigger seam allowance here. And when you get to this point and start coming up over it's quite a big lump, so you'll perhaps need to use one of those stilettos or something to help you get it through. We then go to 1/4 of an inch. So 3/8 of an inch on your lining sewing, but 1/4 of an inch here, and just get down to the corner, pivot, go round, round, round. So I'm going to go and do that, and we'll come back and talk about how to turn it in. Okay, so here I've sewn all the way around and I've left my turning gap in the bottom of the lining. Now I'm just going to grab my fabric scissors and just do a little bit of trimming. There was a bit of extra bulk and fabric on one of my seams, and I am just going to come and just round off those corners, keeping well away from my stitching, but just to reduce the bulk of fabric when we are trying to turn those corners around. And similarly for down here on the bottom of the exterior fabrics as well. It doesn't have to be much, but just a little bit to help with the turning around. Now, I'm going to try and stick my fingers in here. And because we had the zip open, we can get our hands all the way through to this corner, pop that in and start poking it through. And it's a bit like, I don't know, turning an elephant around, but it'll come through eventually. Don't worry, we're going to give it a good press once it's all done, so any wrinkles will come out quite nicely. There we have, we've turned it inside out. Now I stick my hand back in there because I want to make sure we get everything out. So there's my ribbon, my ribbon's popped out. Now the real points of perhaps difficulty that you want to turn around are these corners where you've got your zipper tape ending, and obviously the bottom corners of your exterior. So we've got, you know, the fusible fleeces in there, got a few layers of it. Now sometimes I have a little poking stick, but I can't find where I've put it, so finger's going to have to do. I also rub my fingers along the seam too, just to try and give it a bit of a hint that it needs to lie flat. Get that other corner out. I'll work on that one a bit more in a second. And then this other zippy end. Okay, so it's starting to look a bit more like a zippy pouch. Now, the interior of the lining, we obviously still have that hole. So once I've made sure that, you know, my sewing's all okay and it's going to sit quite well, I'm just flattening out the lining and those corners. And because we used the slightly bigger seam allowance for the lining portion, it's going to sit reasonably well inside here. It's not going to have extra bulk or be floppy inside. So once I'm happy that it's all going to sit really well, I pop it out again, flatten out that little bit of the open seam. Sometimes I'll go to the iron and press it, because what you want to do is you want to fold over the 3/8 of an inch or whatever we did with that seam allowance, fold it over, and I just go on my machine just really tiny, not even 1/8 of an inch, just all the way along, or you could hand sew it. I'm a bit lazy, so hand sewing doesn't come into it. So I'm just going to go and do that, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've just sewn up the very bottom of my interior lining, given it a bit of a press, and there we have a zippy pouch made from the Ruby Star Society mask panel, and it's just perfect to fit my Ruby Star Society mask in, so I can take it in my handbag, keeps it nice and clean till I need to use it. Thanks for watching.